Hello and welcome to the show that, despite the pleas of our families and friends, simply will not stop talking about D&D.
So, ready your spells and weapons, grab the shiniest set of your math rocks, and prepare for critical friendship.
So today we're talking about some creatures and monsters.
Of our favorite variety.
Yeah. So Blake, how do you want to do this?
Well, first, I want to set up a little bit of ground rules. Third-party source material is allowed, as is, random cool stuff that you found online. Doesn't have to be balanced to be amazing, but yeah, I mean, a lot of my favorites come from like Kobold Press and stuff like that. They have so many great compendiums of monsters, and some of these I've not even ever gotten to run, but I love the concept of them.
Yeah, my whole list is ones I have not gotten to run, except for like one or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have a decent amount of monsters here. So,
and I already guessed at one of them, and I was like, oh, was it that thing we had to fight in that one shot?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I liked it.
Don't remember its name, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, go ahead and start us off, Blake.
So generally speaking, the criteria I use for like picking a monster and actually getting to use it is it has lore that just piques my interest. Like it just like I generally am drawn to something by what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards I start researching and finding out, where it came from, who originally made it, like what edition was it published in, was it ever published in an edition?
Yeah.
And then I kind of go from there, and then I end up using it in the game and not even touching on the lore at all because people are just like, oh hey, it's a baddie, stab it to death.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that first off, I'm probably gonna go with one of my favorite encounters that I've ever run. I think I've touched on it very briefly in one of our other episodes,
mm-hmm.
and it is a specific creature called the Lonely. It is in a category of creatures called the Sorrowsworn, and there's 4 or 5 of them, and they go in different tiers from easier and weaker to harder. So it's like the Lonely, or no, it's the Wretched, the Lost, the Lonely, the Hungry, and the Angry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they're all different manifestations of extreme despairing emotions. So it's generally somebody whose soul or physical body gets stuck in the plane of shadow, and they're trying to find their way back to civilization, or they've lost all their friends, or they're dying of starvation, or they're enraged about something, and then the corrupting energy of that plane just kind of takes over in their final moments, and they become one of these Sorrowsworn.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I loved so much about the Lonely, if you look at it, I don't know if we'll put pictures up, but we might.
We'll see.
Yeah. The thing about the Lonely is when you're just flipping through the books, it doesn't look like a terribly frightening, creature.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of this weird hunched over blue dude with black tears running down his face. And then you take a second look at him, and the bottoms of his legs instead of feet are these weird little spikes. And then his arms, one of them, right around the forearm, it changes from an arm form to this really long spike. And then the other arm is extended and almost laying coiled on the ground.
Oh,
and
geez.
Impaled on the spike on the end is a human arm that's been speared by it.
Ooh.
And essentially this thing, it's overcome with the emotions of it got lost by itself. It's desperately wanting that companionship again that it used to have with its friends and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it sees the adventurers, it just wants to reach out to them. So It's not necessarily a malicious thing, but it's that desire for companionship that has been twisted and darkened and corrupted by the Shadowfell.
Yeah.
And so its attack is literally it just reaching out and trying to claim a companion.
Mm-hmm.
Which it does so with spear arms.
Right.
Now, the interesting...
Oh, look, I've been impaled.
Exactly. The interesting thing about it is its anatomy is not stretchy. it's just so desperate to reach out and grab somebody that its muscles and sinews and arms and bones just will tear themselves in its desperate attempt to reach out and grab somebody. And so this thing has a 30-foot reach with its attack.
Ooh. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's really fun to like, I ran it one time, and its whole tactic is it grabs people and then it tries to run off with them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, this is my friend now. But the problem is because of its intense emotions of despair and loneliness, it exudes this psychic field that anybody within 10 feet of it just starts getting battered with despair and all this other stuff. So they start taking just insane amounts of psychic damage just from being near it, which if it grabs you, it pulls you in, and now you're near it, and it just automatically is just pummeling you with psychic energy.
Oh my gosh. So too bad for barbarians and fighters, huh?
Oh yeah. Like they get speared and they're like, ha, whatever. You piercing damage, who cares? And then they get pulled in, and it's like, oh, that's a lot of psychic damage, and I don't get to reduce that. And unless you're playing as like a Kalishtar barbarian or something like that.
Something with some
with psychic resistance.
Psychic resistance, yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, there's the way I got to run it was so much fun because the players were in this corrupted land that I discussed on another episode, and I read a clip of like, you know, what I read to them when they landed there. And almost immediately while they were there, like the first night they got attacked by shadows, which for anybody who knows 5e, shadows, they are deadly.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, these things had an aversion to light, so we have to light a campfire at night to kind of keep them at bay because we can't go through that again. We need to rest.
Yeah.
And they start hearing something like while they're setting up camp and the sun's going down and they're desperately gathering wood and stuff, they start hearing this thing just out in the forest, and it's weeping and it's asking, is anybody there? And it's crying, and they're like, oh, guys, this is most definitely a trap. What are we supposed to do with this? And we had this one guy that he was so good at staying in character.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just was like, he was playing like a good aligned cleric fighter multi-class, and he was just such a sweet little gnome that just like genuinely wanted to help people. And he kind of looks at me like, this is gonna suck. And he just goes, hello, who's out there? If you need something, you can come join us. We're about to have a fire. And they just hear the weeping stop.
Oh.
And he just goes, great. And everybody else in the party is looking at him and just going, Glint, what is wrong with you? And he's like, well, there's somebody out there, you know, they need help. And of course, you know, they're taking watches and stuff like that. And the first night, and I described because I rolled a d4 because there was 4 of them to see whose watch it actually found them on.
Mm.
And I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Heather's watch.
Okay.
And I explain how you hear this sound that sounds like ripping flesh, but like sped up.
Uh-huh.
Like it's happening instantaneously, like an arm being ripped off, but immediately.
Right.
And I had this soundboard up that I was using, a little shovel, like digging into dirt, because it had spiked feet. So it was like they would kind of shook into the soil a little bit. So I was using that, and they were hearing this like moving around, and I was adjusting the volume on it so that it sounded different and stuff like that. And basically she hears this sound and then just feels this like agonizing pain, and has enough time to let out a scream, and then just gets yanked out of the firelight. And everybody's like, did we hear the scream? Did we hear the scream? I'm like, yeah, you heard the scream. She's sitting right next to you guys. So they all wake up and they're looking out into the darkness, and they start hearing these noises receding, and her character, Zanelli, just shrieking. Yeah. And they're like, do we chase her? Or and I think she started like yelling threats from the darkness, like, you better come save me. Because she was playing a chaotic evil halfling at the time. So was her first reaction in most instances was to threaten and coerce. And they all kind of knew, like, if she does get out of this, she will make good on those threats. We should go.
Yeah. Dang.
But it was such a fun encounter, and like they chased it off, and it ended up hunting them for like weeks in game. Every time they stopped moving, they would hear it, and every time they like set up a camp, they had to question whether or not they were going to build a fire, which would draw this thing towards them, or if they would sleep in darkness and risk an attack from shadows, or it was
What's the lesser of two evils there?
I don't know, but it was meant to be brutal. It was meant to be like the whole travel through this area was meant to be absolutely just brutal on them.
Yeah.
And they were like, we have a ranger, so it's fine, and we can't get lost. And I'm like, dude, all the terrain is magical. Like, you were told this before you went there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't get lost, but by magical means.
It's magical.
It's very magical. So good luck, buddy. And so rest and food, like anytime they would forage, they had to wonder, like, okay, is this stuff cursed? Is it gonna poison us? Because all the plant life was corrupted and twisted, and it was fun, and just to have that thing hunting them the whole time, and then when they finally killed it, just the cheers and celebration that went up from the table was like, it felt really good.
Yeah,
because I was like, hey, they just got to have that awesome victory, and mostly they did that, but I got to be the facilitator for it. And it felt so good. It was one of my proudest moments in that campaign, was just that ongoing encounter that they just kept having to deal with.
Yeah.
And so the Lonely, the Sorrowsworn, it's in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Such a great creature.
Nice. I like it.
And the other Sorrowsworn are good too, but that's the one that stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially because you got to play it and got to do several pieces of it and stuff like that. It sounds so much fun.
Yeah, and then once they killed it, of course they like cut those little like arm harpoons off, and they were gonna make something out of them, and then one of the guys took like the longer arm spear because the other one got shattered in the fight. And so he was like cutting it up, and he just grabbed the long one and put it in the backpack. And Heather's character, Zanelli, was just like, that's mine. And he's like, no, I harvested it, it's mine. And she's like, no, that's mine. And he's like, no, I'm keeping it. So she waited, and they were doing watches. And she intentionally set it up to where her watch was going to be right before his, so she had to wake him up. So she waits till everybody's asleep and goes and wakes him up. And she did this in between sessions. And when we first got there, she was like, by the way, Jacob, this is all in character. You're my friend and I love you. Please don't take this personally. And he's looking at her going, oh no, what are you going to do? And she had written out, because Heather's such a sweet person, she wrote out a threat of what she was going to do to him, and step by step description of what Zanelli was going to do to Riorin if he did not hand it over. And he was just like, okay, you can have it.
No intimidation check needed.
Well, generally speaking, in that kind of instance, I let the players kind of rule it how they're going to do it. Like, okay, would my character actually be afraid of this little halfling warlock? And in that case, he had seen what Zanelli could do and what she was willing to do, and completely believed what she said, and was just like, okay, you can have the stupid spear. Like, it's not worth it. Because he had gotten other loot from it. Like they collected the tears, because in the artwork it has this like black Icarus looking stuff coming from its eyes. And there's a specific type of poison that's like really high tier poison called the Midnight Tears.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, you know what? It fits flavor wise. Let's just. Because they wanted to collect it, and they were like, okay, we're going to collect this. Did we sense anything from it? And I was like, sure. I'll think of something. And just, so he had a bottle of this crazy expensive and very, very strong magical poison.
Dang.
That I was just like, yeah, you got something out of it.
Cool.
So Dan, your turn. I spent way too long talking about that thing. It was such a fun encounter.
Yeah, I was gonna say like all of mine are not gonna be as detailed as that. I will say I think we've talked about mine a little bit, or one of mine a little bit in past episodes, where like I love werewolves and I love were creatures and stuff like that. So
where
all over the place.
Do you also like warehouses?
Yes, I do. I've worked in too many of them, but anyway,
same.
But yeah, one of my favorite creatures of sorts is the were creatures. So in one of actually a couple of the sessions that we've played in my campaign of Aloin is going after werewolves and the like, or lichen.
That's what I thought you were gonna say with that. Let's see. So far, we've fought a were-bat, a were-wolf, a were-tiger.
Yep.
And a were-rat, but like a modified one.
Yeah. So
there was something else.
That
first encounter had like a whole bunch of different ones.
Yeah, there was a were-boar.
A were-boar, yeah.
Yeah. But you also had some on your side as well.
Yeah.
That there was like a were-bear and stuff like that was on your side.
One Atreya is a were-raven.
Right, exactly.
Atreya is my wife's current character.
Yeah. But one of my favorite sessions was I think it was the last one we played, where you guys walked into the guy you were trying to protect, who is now a werewolf. His home or estate you walked into, and there was a bunch of were creatures, and the main bad guy there was a were rat, but he was a bit modified, a little bit more homebrewed style of were rat, where he had control of like swarms of rats. And
that dude was an absolute beast.
But you guys tore him to shreds, but he gave you at least a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, thank God we have a controller mage and a barbarian that's just gonna grab his underlings and beat him with them.
Yeah. But yeah, so he was pretty cool. I liked being able to play something that was a little bit more scary and a little bit more like
intimidating.
As
we walked in that room and I immediately was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be bad," because he started talking and I'm like, "Uh-oh," and we had like all held in action, but like the way you were role playing him was so well done that like nobody interrupted the villain monologue, because like I've been DMing for a while, and you start like you have your villain start saying something and somebody just goes, "I'm gonna shoot him." And you're
right,
like,
yeah.
Can you let me finish my sentence first? It's like, "Nah, I'm gonna shoot him." And so like you started going, and we were all so like enraptured with how you were role playing him that we all just kind of froze and listened for a minute. And like you stopped talking, and I think Ariel made some snarky remark to him, and he had his comeback, and then I was like, "Well, I'm gonna shoot him," because I was like hiding behind everybody else with my bow readied, and it's just like he finished talking, Ariel's character said something, and then he responded, and I'm just like, "Well, I guess this concludes negotiations. Let's shoot him."
I actually have the lines that I wrote down for him to say in the beginning of that, because
did you get to use all of them?
Yeah.
Or? Wow.
Yeah. No, it was just one little section of words that I wanted you guys to come into.
Mm-hmm. Because you didn't expect to get more than that.
Exactly. Pretty much. I knew it was going to be an encounter. I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to go. I figured you guys would be able to beat him, but do you mind if I say the lines?
It.
Okay, cool.
Go for it.
So a little bit of background on this encounter was you guys were protecting someone named Chabaris. He's the lord of a town called Trumbull. Yep.
I take notes.
Yeah. And so you guys had brought him back to his estate in Trumbull.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys came across this were rat who was the big leader of these were creatures. And as you walk into this room, you hear this guy saying, "Welcome, Chabaris and friends. You have managed to escape my acolytes, I see. But now your choices have been whittled down to 2. Join my clan and keep your seat as lord so that we may have control of this town. Or die at the feet of Jannar Savor. Make your choice." So it was just like this really fun, like, evil sound, and it was just like, oh.
You got really into the theater of it, and I was so excited. I was like, yes!
And it was one of those like chair turns around moments, where the evil guy is sitting. And he's like leaned back in the chair and like, I think he had a rat in his
something like that
lap or something. And he was kind of doing the whole petting the cat thing. But
which of course, when you talked about the chair and all that, like in such a awesome moment, my brain, if anybody who's listening, one of the 4 people that listens, has ever seen Purple Eyes WTF, he made an abridged series of an anime, and like he does this like turn around, in the chair thing, and they're like, "How did you do that? That chair is not supposed to rotate like that." And he goes, "By causing $100,000 worth of damages." And so like he turned around in the chair, and I immediately started like giggling a little bit, like under my breath, because I was like, "That's $100,000 worth of damages."
Well, the funny thing is that my brain is thinking one of those like big, like easy chair like things, but then I had to think of, well, it has to rotate somehow. So it's like a office easy chair.
Yeah. It has the little swivel on it, but it still has like the comfy
the
armrest
grand, like, comfy arms and like the big high back and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah. And again, it's one of those things where I don't know a whole lot of the lore behind these creatures and stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, but like, it's just fun to kind of make it up yourself in some ways of like, I know this particular kind of creature, like werewolves and were-rats and stuff like that. You can kind of make it your own in certain ways where like, I got it. Where I just made these 2 warring factions of were creatures, and like one wants to be more known and have some power in the world, whereas the other side is kind of like trying to keep it under wraps, but also like
aid from the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. Being more like vigilante style.
So is there a werebat named Batman?
No, it's Bruce. Spelled BROOS.
Bruce.
And then he has a ward named Damien. You can't really change that one.
Okay, so what is Alfred?
Alfred is a
is he just an unseen servant that he calls
Alfred? There you go. Perfect.
He just casts unseen servant Alfred. For some reason I keep going to like the Peter Holmes Batman.
That's the best Batman voice.
Alfred. What do you mean, who is this? Who else has this phone number?
Where are the other drugs going?
What is that? It's like high pitched, like a bat. No, that's not good. Really? I've been working on that all day, man.
Oh man.
Wait, that one was good. What?
That
one that you're doing. Seriously? I just lost my voice.
Good job, Peter Holmes.
He's making those again.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's making those again. Except it's like employee reviews of the Justice League.
Oh geez.
Sorry, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah, I love the X-Men ones.
Yeah, it's like those, but Batman and the Justice League. You're fired, dude. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So what? I like what you said about like you get to take these monsters and make them your own, especially because we're playing in a homebrew world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to do that quite as much with running Icewind Dale for you guys. But like in homebrew, it's like, this is my world, this is my universe. Like I can throw whatever I want in there and kind of make it whatever I want. You know, like, so what specifically kind of drew you to the lycanthrope group of monsters, like flavor wise?
Flavor wise, I have always they taste good. No,
the ramen flavor packet. Flavor wise, what brought you there? Cherry. Is that another question?
Grape. It's my second favorite.
or the SAO abridged. I like the purple ones. Yeah, and the blue was too tart.
Blue is awesome. Anyway,
we're talking about crayons.
Oh, never mind. So werewolves have been a thing for me for a long time. I have loved wolves in general.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a kid, my friends and I would play a weird version of House. Like I had a lot of friends growing up that were female friends. Mm-hmm. And so like they would want to play House, but
you wanted to play the Munsters.
I wanted to play Werewolf.
So you played the Munsters.
I played the Munsters, yeah. So like we would just be like a family, and then there would be a thing about being werewolves. So but like growing up playing those games, and like I don't know, like there's a lot of different werewolf stereotypes, and not stereotypes, but like movies and books and stuff about werewolves and vampires and stuff like that like I don't know, I was always drawn to them for some reason. And I don't know,
and there's so much different lore you could pull from making them your own. You kind of get to pick and choose. Like it's like going to a buffet. Like, ooh, I like that, and I really don't care for that. Like, ooh, hey, that seems cool. Like,
yeah, like for me, where in a lot of werewolf style movies and stuff like that, like say the movies, the Underworld movies, like
I love
such
those.
Great movies. The style of werewolf,
it sounds really weird saying I loved those as a kid, because it's like, that was not a kid's movie.
No, not at all.
But also Diablo was not a kid's game, and I played the heck out of that. So
yeah.
Sorry, Mom, I just told on you a little bit.
Whoopsies. But yeah, so like that style of werewolf I didn't fully love, but I kind of liked and I'm gonna, get a bunch of flack for this, but I liked the Twilight version of werewolf because they actually turned into wolves. Very large, mean looking wolves. Whereas a lot of other ones, they're just like bipedal, like
the Van Helsing
weird
version.
Things. Yeah. Like I love the Van Helsing movie. I just don't like the style of werewolf.
That was the type I always liked.
Yeah.
I
liked that one more than...
Which is interesting, because Dungeons and Dragons they can turn into a large wolf form, they can turn into their human form, or they have the hybrid, which is the mixture.
Right. And that's kind of the way I like to play, is where they fully turn into the wolf, but at the same time, even in their bipedal form, they look a little bit more wolven than those weird, like half skin, half fur, like weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't like that.
The one I really hated was from, I think it was Lupin from Prisoner of Azkaban. He was like this weird, scrawny, like gangly doggist thing, and I'm like, I don't know that you've ever seen a wolf.
Right.
That does not look anything like a wolf. It barely
looks like a rat kind of thing.
It barely looked like a dog, and then it was like hairless and like all skin and bone, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Like, great movies.
Yeah.
Great books.
Whereas
That was bad.
yeah, whereas Sirius, when he turns into a wolf, it's a wolf or a dog.
Well, he wasn't a lycanthrope, though.
Right, he's a
Animagus.
animagus. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like, he would turn into a dog and it would be a dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason that always just felt good to me to
Yeah.
have the wolf thing. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're good.
But then also, like, with the addition of the other types of were creatures like were-boars and were-bats and were-bears. I love the were-bear.
Yeah.
For some reason, that one, I love.
Have you seen the picture of the one in Icewind Dale of the werebear? It's a Goliath werebear. And so you see this thing, it's a bipedal bear walking around, and it's got like some furs on it, and it's got like a little belt with like fish dangling from it, and it's got a fishing rod slung over its shoulder, and I'm just like, it looks like the Coca-Cola bear, but in a medieval setting.
Yeah.
I like your polar bear. The polar bear on your cork.
Looks peculiar.
Anyways. Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of mine. Yeah. Next one for you.
Fascinating. We've devolved into the Swedish Chef. So I a lot of mine are like categories of creatures. So like not necessarily like, oh, I like the undead, but I do. Just because they're so versatile and you can throw them in whatever setting you want to. It's just like undead.
Yep.
It could be a modern, it could be medieval fantasy, it could be whatever. And then
it could be modern, it could be
anyways. but like they kind of just fit anywhere, and then you can even get the stat blocks for the infectious ones that just add a whole nother layer of fear onto it. But that's not actually what I'm going to talk about right now. There is a specific classing of creature called the Star Spawn.
Okay.
You look confused, but you just fought some of these the other day.
Did I?
Yeah. In the 20th level.
Oh.
The one we've not finished yet.
Right.
Yeah, so there's several different types of Star Spawn, and the thing I like about them is I can't even say that I was drawn to the artwork, because very few of them actually have artwork, because they're supposed to be these bizarre eldritch far realm creatures. If you don't know what the far realm is, it's essentially it's the dreams of a greater god who's gone insane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this...
Oh, that's right. Like the big, like, plant-looking things, because they...
Yeah, the manglers.
The manglers, yeah.
But basically the far realm was created by this god named Thrazdun, or Tharizdun, or... Tharizdun.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry,
I knew one.
My pronunciations are not perfect. But through very weird circumstances, came across, which I'll get into that some on one of my other picks, came across this item, this thing called the Shard of Evil.
Okay.
That was basically sent to the prime material realm from another dimension. Not another plane of existence, a complete another dimension that was dying.
Okay.
And it was made to kind of be a beacon for the remaining entities that lived in this other dimension to tear through reality and make it to this world. So when he grabbed hold of this thing and brought it into his reality, it broke his mind, but it also gave him near ultimate power.
Dang. Okay.
So he had this idea of destroying all of reality and remaking it in his own image.
Okay.
But it didn't work because he went insane. And so he is trapped in a mental prison of his own making. And it's basically like, if he ever wakes up, we're all dead. But because of this dream reality that he's trapped in is called the Far Realm.
Okay.
And it's basically just the psychic emanations of this god. It exists outside of reality. And none of the laws of physics work there. That's where all the weird, crazy, wackiest creatures are, like the classification of aberration. comes from the Far Realm. So stuff like Beholders, Nothics, stuff like that.
Yeah. The
Far
fun
realm.
ones.
Far realm. Yeah, the ones that are really cool but really dangerous. Applies in the case of the star spawn as well. So there's several different types. There's like these little gibbering ones called the Gru. Not Gru. Not that Gru. Not that Gru little girl. But they're kind of just these weak little, small sized creatures that just release these utterances that kind of can give disadvantage. I think they give disadvantage on attacks and stuff like that. And then there's the Mangler, which just gets to make a lot of attacks. And then the Hulk.
Oh, geez, yeah. The Mangler was ridiculous.
Granted, I did modify that.
You did?
Yeah, so I did that way back when I was running the homebrew campaign. And it worked out so well because it was enough to be terrifying, but not enough to just destroy somebody. So I was like, I'm going to give them extra attacks and then throw it on a recharge.
Yeah. And every time you got the recharge, it was like 6 attacks.
I think it was 5.
No,
five.
you
might
got
have been
6 at least twice.
It might have been 6, yeah. But I threw it on a recharge and
it was always on me. You were missing everyone else but me.
Well, I kept missing hitting you, but I kept getting the recharge for them to make their crazy amount of attacks. So it was just like, oh, hey, they got their recharge. Roll a hit. Well, that's a 5. Well, that's a 2. Nat 1. What is happening? This guy like has everything else going for him. He has advantage for crying out loud, and he's missing all of his attacks.
Except on me.
On you. It was
no,
you too.
He was missing everyone else but me.
Oh,
and because I had a really high AC.
Yeah.
But you kept hitting over it.
Right. I remember now.
I had an AC of 23.
That was hilarious. I'm like, oh, that's a 25. And you're like, I have a 23. Why?
I think you hit the 23 exactly.
My voice went a little bit Gilbert Gottfried right there.
How is he hitting my AC of 23?
Anyways. Is that your next D&D character?
I'm going so. What's the line? Oh man, I can't remember it. Never mind. So something I'm malting.
Oh yeah. But one of the things I like about those creatures is if you take one of the larger ones called the Hulk. It's a star spawn Hulk. They have this really weird ability that doesn't seem like much until you look at some of the other star spawn. So it's got this ability, I think it's called Psychic Mirror, where if you hit it with psychic damage, it will take none of that damage and instead reflect it onto every creature within 10 feet of it.
Which we did.
Now, normally you kind of go, well, psychic is not one of the super common damage types. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, in y'all's little thing, Joel cast Phantasmal Killer, and he upcast it so it was doing even more damage. And then him and Heather's character were like right up on it, or maybe was it Rosie? There were 2 characters right up on it.
Yep.
And so he uses Phantasmal Killer, and he's like, "Oh, it needs to make a saving throw." And I'm like, "You can willingly fail saving throws." And I just looked at him and said, "He fails." And he goes, "What?" "Yeah, he fails." He goes, "Did you roll?" I was like, "Mm-mm." He failed. And he goes, "Okay, cool." And he just rolls a bucket of dice, and he's like, "It dealt that much damage."
Like 39, I think it was.
Yeah, it was like 39 or 38. It was a big number. I said, "Okay, cool. Question: do either of y'all have resistance to psychic damage?" And he's like, "No." "Why? Do I need it?" And I'm like, "You might, because you just took 39 psychic damage." She goes, "Why?" I'm like, "Well,
Psychic Mirror, baby."
Yeah. But then you look at one of the other creatures called a Star Spawn Seer. And it basically has this fun little ability where it can just teleport around the battlefield and throw psychic bombs. So what you would generally do is, hey, this big guy that's run in here and is just like slamming people around, everybody go gang up on the big dude.
Yep.
Which is exactly what the Seer wants you to do, because once you go gang up on the big dude, he starts throwing psychic bombs at the big guy and just blasting everybody around him, because normally it's a single target.
Yo.
Well, now that you've got 3 of the party members standing around this big thing, it just keeps throwing those psychic attacks at the Hulk, which just reflects onto everybody around it. And then they very quickly go, oh crap, well, we got to chase down that guy now. And then you use your dash action to run up to it, and then it teleports.
Yep.
It's like, well, that's not good. And then now guess who's just used his dash action to chase after you? The big guy.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's some other ones like the larva mage and one other that I won't discuss because you guys haven't finished that one shot yet. Anybody who reads real deeply into monster lore and owns a lot of the books will probably know what I'm talking about, but
yeah,
we don't have any commenters anyway, so who's gonna spoil it?
No spoilers for us. Dang it.
For once, we're gonna get somebody commenting and be like, oh, it's actually called this. And you're the one who manages the YouTube channel, so you'd be like, I know what it is now.
But don't worry, I don't metagame.
Yeah, you don't metagame, which is why I'm considering talking about one of the creatures. But also, Joel listens to this, and
yeah,
I might just talk about it. I don't know. Anyways, your turn.
It's up to you. I don't know. So my next one that I want to talk about is something I found for for the homebrew campaign that you guys may or may not take more trips on an airship.
Mm-hmm.
And and I have these little miniatures from a different game.
Oh, I've seen them.
Called Windward. And they're like little whale creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I have to stat these things somehow. And I just found this stat block on Pinterest called the Mind Poisoned Whale.
Oh no. Pinterest is so good for D&D stuff, you guys. Like, if you're ever like dying, like we have a one shot, we got a plan tonight, go on Pinterest, search 5e D&D, and you will, within 5 minutes, have more ideas than you could ever get to in a lifetime.
And that's where a lot of these are coming from that I'm talking about right now, is that I've found on Pinterest, because I'm terrible at reading the books that you let me borrow.
Yeah, I see them sitting right over there.
They're right here. Yeah, I know. So this thing is a gargantuan undead.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, fun.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. So it's amphibious, so it can breathe air and water. So if you guys are over water or whatever and you get attacked by this thing and you go down to the water, it can still get you from under the water. And I thought, or the other way around, if you're on the water.
Dan, is this perhaps revenge for me killing a certain boss monster
Maybe slightly.
in one shot?
Maybe slightly.
By throwing him off the edge of the skyship?
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing.
I wouldn't want you to.
That's going to be the next t-shirt. Just a smug smile and I'm not apologizing.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of these abilities that it has, and they're just crazy. Anyway, so it's amphibious. It has multi-attack. It has painful fear. If a creature is frightened by the whale and starts its turn within 60 feet of it, takes 2d8 psychic damage. It has a bite attack that does a d20 plus 8 damage.
No, thank you.
And then if the whale takes 30 damage or more on a single turn from a creature inside it, the whale must succeed on okay, sorry, no, I'm not gonna
so
talk about that
it has one of those like auto swallow attacks.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah, so if the target is a large or smaller creature, it must succeed on a DC 16 dexterity or strength saving throw or be swallowed by the whale after the bite attack. Then it has a tail attack, aura of mind poison, which has the recharge. So it gives off an impulse of purple poisonous energy. Any creature within 60 feet of the whale must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be frightened for a minute.
And given our party makeup, wisdom saves are probably pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
This is very dangerous.
And then it also has Breath of Mind poison. The whale fires off a beam of purple energy from its mouth in a 10-foot wide and 120-foot long line. So yeah.
One question, Dan.
Yes.
Does it have a flight speed?
It has a flight speed of 30 feet and a swim speed of 30 feet.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I would think it would be bigger than that.
I was gonna say, even if it doesn't have a flight speed, it's a homebrew creature. It's not like you're, you know, gonna piss anybody off by throwing one on there. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's why it says it's amphibious. It can breathe air and water, so it can fly and it can swim.
Yeah.
But the picture of it isn't what the little things I have look like, but I just thought it looked cool. It's like, it looks like a megalodon or something, but it's all like purple and glowy.
Yeah. It says whale, but it has shark gills.
Yeah, that's what I thought was funny. But yeah,
it does look pretty cool.
It's so stinking cool.
That's why it looks more megalodon, because of the pointy teeth and then the gills.
Yep.
If it's undead, the thing that's weird about it being undead is usually undead creatures have undead nature.
Right.
That one has amphibious.
Yeah.
Undead nature dictates that it does not need to breathe.
That's true.
Amphibious is like, oh yeah, it's breathing. So logically, we could technically suffocate it.
Yeah.
Cover up its gills and then throw it in the water and he's gonna die.
I will not allow it. No, I was kidding.
But I mean, honestly, that's when you would make the ruling of, no, it has undead nature. Like, with the stat block, I don't. First of all, why do you know the stat block?
Right.
It's homebrew. And secondly, it's undead.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a nice thing about these homebrew creatures is you can make any adjustments you want to it.
I mean, you can make those with any creatures.
Yeah.
I just admitted to having modified the Starspawn Mangler a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of like trying to figure out the lore behind this creature in my game. I haven't started thinking about it yet, but like thinking about it now, I'm like, okay, what could be the reason why this thing is undead? Like what happened to these creatures that would have made them go after you guys or you know, whatever. So
yeah,
trying to go through those different questions.
It won't be too long before we piss somebody off, you know.
Yeah.
We're about as diplomatic as a sledgehammer.
I mean, you haven't had Aaliyah really talk much, so you don't know.
Still, we have a assassin-y style kobold. We have an assassin style
lizard folk.
Yanti.
Or Yanti, yeah.
And then a big freaking lizard folk barbarian. And then we have our wizard who is just trying to keep us from going insane. So, stop. God, we need leashes for you people.
What do you mean, you people?
Because we're all reptiles except for her.
Mm-hmm. She's a elf, I think.
Except for me, I'm technically a dragon.
Yeah.
You're a tiny little dragon.
Not a reptile. Don't have cold blood. Fight me on it. So, one of my next ones is it doesn't have a stat block, actually.
Okay.
For 5th edition. I think he did in previous editions, but not for 5e. And this would be the King of Demons, Obox Ob.
Ooh.
So, you remember how I talked about that shard of Ultimate Evil that Tharizdun got a hold of and it made him crazy?
Yeah.
So long before the creation of the Prime Material Realm...
Hold on, let me get my footstool.
Pull up a chair, grab a snack, because we're getting into it, guys.
Buckle up!
Yeah, so before the material realm was even fully formed, there was another dimension that was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And the only creatures that were left in it were these horribly evil creatures that had basically just become incredibly powerful and just consumed their world. And the only pockets that were inhabitable, even by these horribly corrupted, monstrous creatures, were their own little personal demiplanes, in which they were basically gods over. But because their world, their universe was crumbling, their demiplanes were starting to fall too.
Okay.
And travel between them was difficult. So it's like, okay, I'm the king of my own world, but it's an empty world, so I'm the king of nothing.
Mm.
And so a bunch of these creatures that were called Oberith, which makes them sound like they're all the same, but they're not. They were all vastly different.
Okay.
Got together with the most powerful of them, Obox Ob, and formed this shard of evil and sent it through the ether, basically to seek out a powerful mind that could sense it through the veil of reality and draw it into his world, or their world, and pretty much form a gateway through whatever creature's mind that they could all travel through into a new world full of life, ripe for the devouring.
Ooh.
So they did that. They created this shard, and Tharizdun found it, and it came into reality along with all of these souls of these creatures that had to literally discard their physical body, form into one massive conglomerate psychic consciousness so that they could travel through this void of nothingness and come through. Now, most of the Oberith went completely insane and could not reform themselves. They could not regain any kind of physical form in a reality that was so foreign to them. But the most powerful ones, such as the Queen of Chaos and, most importantly, Obox Ob, were very much able to reform themselves. And not only that, but able to kind of absorb many of the other Oberith, making themselves even more powerful.
Oh, wow.
So when Obox Ob entered this reality, it just started ripping it to pieces. Like he was such a powerful being that reality was literally being torn apart, not just in the present, but in the future. Bits of reality from years ahead of time were being torn loose and dragged into this thing's wake as it literally just ate through layers of the universe, forming what is now known in D&D as the Abyss.
Oh.
Infinite layers, because it was literally pieces ripped from infinite amount of time as Obox Ob just ripped through reality.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how world-endingly powerful this thing is, that, thousands of years from current D&D date, this thing, through time, comes through a village and just rips it out. Just tears it out and yanks it to the abyss. Whole planet's just pulled in.
Dang, okay.
This was the progenitor race of the demons, or Tanari. So when you hear something like, oh, Demogorgon is the prince of all demons, why isn't he king?
Yeah.
Why isn't he king, Dan?
Because the king is the one
Because even in his horribly weakened and lessened state, caused by the Queen of Chaos and some of the other Oberith basically rebelling against him and creating the Tanari to kind of fight back against Tanarian demons, same thing, to fight back against him, and splitting his soul into multiple pieces and devouring some of it and spreading them out as far as they could so that he could never be whole again, Demogorgon is still afraid of that one and only creature, Obox Ob, and will not claim the title of the King of Demons because he knows I'm not fit for it.
Oh, man.
So as terrifying as Demogorgon is, and no, I'm not talking about Stranger Things.
Right.
He lives in fear that someday these two shattered fragments of Obox Ob will find each other and unite and regain just a modicum of the power that he had. And if that happens, that's the end of the world as it is known.
Yeah.
Everything else starts getting pulled into the abyss as this thing just starts tearing reality apart for the sake of, I'm hungry and I want more power. And guess what he hates most of all?
What's that?
The Tanari. So Demogorgon really doesn't want that to happen. And that's like one of the few things that all of the Tanari style of demons would band together, perhaps, to actually fight against.
Yeah.
Because they're not all that worried about the forces of the angels and the devils in the Blood War trying to keep them down, because they're like, I mean, the Abyss is expanding anyways.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to win this war of attrition. And everything's going to be our domain. If that thing comes back, we don't get a domain. He eats it all.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a lot.
Yeah. So not really a stat block that I have, but again, just lore and a potential plot hook of, hey, some absolutely bad crap crazy cult is trying to fix him, is trying to reunite these fragments of Obok's Ob.
Mm-hmm.
Stop this.
Yeah. It actually kind of reminds me of something that is a plot hook in campaign 2 of Critical Role. Is one of the things that one of the characters is being called to do because his patron is basically a demigod. I wouldn't say a demigod, but a creature of the betrayer gods, called Ukatoa. It's the patron of this character, and he Ukatoa is chained and imprisoned. So he's trying to get his followers to break him out, and so he can destroy the world.
It kind of sounds like Zargon, the Returner. It's another older edition D&D Oberith demon.
It's a giant sea serpent style thing with many eyes.
Well, this was something different, but he never fully had a classification.
Okay.
I think he was an Oberith. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the whole reason why the angels and the gods set up the Blood War is as a distraction and as a delay tactic to keep Obok's Ob down. Meanwhile, heaven has literally, like in Mount Celestia, they've made a gateway that is heavily guarded by all of the forces of heaven, basically, that it just leaves. It leaves reality. It goes somewhere else. Because they know that if this thing ever wakes up, we're not beating it. We're not defeating it. We're leaving. Yeah. We're getting out of here. And we're just going to evacuate as much as we can and then like destroy this portal behind us, because what happened to the Oberith's original realm will happen here if he regains his power.
Yeah. Ooh.
So yeah, that's the kind of fun plot hooks that I research and look into. And
meanwhile, I'm sitting here. Oh, dragons.
Well, damn, we're 5th level. I should hope you're not talking about bringing in the king of the Oberith for a 5th level campaign.
No. I mean, I hope you guys can get to 20th level at some point, but
someday.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a lot.
Yeah. There's a really comprehensive video on it that I can send you if you want, but it does get like really in depth into the details of what was happening and what kind of environment was created by this thing's just very presence. And then it goes into detail on the actual layer of the abyss that it's trapped in now.
Yeah.
And of course, being a plane of the abyss, it's horrible and disgusting. And
of course,
you know, like he gives the guy gives a disclaimer beforehand. He's like, just, you know, in case you have a weak stomach or get squeamish about these kind of things, we are going to talk about one of the most, you know, messed up places in the multiverse today. So get ready.
Yeah. Nice. Well, one of the things I wasn't going to talk about today at all, but you reminded me of it, is something it's not a creature or a monster or anything. It's actually something I kind of want to run for our for my campaign. And you can't tell anybody.
You're posting this on the podcast that our party listens to. What are you talking about? I don't have to tell anybody. You're about to.
It's a joke. But seriously, guys who are listening to this, no metagaming.
We're all pretty good about that.
Or just forget what I'm about to talk about.
Okay.
But
I have a hammer. I can just knock myself in the head afterwards.
There you go. Or, I can do it for you.
That works.
But yeah, I've just had this idea for the last couple of weeks about a house or a room in a house that is on a time loop.
Ooh.
So like you go in, you have some kind of encounter or whatever, and then you try to leave, but you go back into the same door
first
you came in, and everything's back the way it was. The same creatures come out. Like it just sounds like a lot of fun to me. But you have to figure out like how to stop the loop.
There
basically.
was a comic on the Webtoons app that I read that was kind of like that, where he's like in his living room and he opens the door to leave his apartment, and it's a complete exact duplicate of his living room.
Mm-hmm.
And like the same food is there and stuff like that. And so if he goes through any of the doors, it goes into a duplicate of his living room that is coming in from that door.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he had like this microwavable like meal and like a few pizza crusts sitting on his like coffee table. And so anytime he got hungry, he would go into the next room and it would all be there again. And he just gets trapped in this weird pocket plane of just the living room of his home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's basically the same kind of idea, but it's just like you have to go in and figure out why this thing is the way it is. Mm-hmm. Someone got trapped in here or, whatever. And it's just like, I really want to get started on this, working on it, because there's ideas in my head of what I want to try to do with it, and it'll be fun.
That sounds like fun.
But I'll move on from that to an actual creature.
We're getting into a different episode about encounters we want to run.
Yes.
Write that down.
One of the ones I have run that I really liked was actually something from Critical Role. It was called the Udak.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically this large gorilla type creature that I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it had 4 arms and 2 legs and like large like tusk type teeth and stuff like that. And the way you guys fought him was there was a wizard that was making him invisible, and like it kept like moving throughout the house. You guys couldn't see it, and like all of a sudden you just hear like a and like
it was a pain in the butt to fight.
Yeah.
Until we found the wizard.
Until you found the wizard. Actually, no, because the wizard was still invisible when you defeated it. It didn't have enough hit points. But you heard the wizard when you defeated it and was like, oh, that's what's controlling this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I thought the wizard was still, because we heard the wizard at one point. Well, because Atreya was fighting the big thing, and I ran out into the hall so I could get range on it, and we heard, because you let me roll a perception check, so the fight with the big guy was still going on, and I heard the wizard and like saw something like get knocked over or something.
Yeah.
And I started taking shots at the invisible wizard, and he finally lost concentration and was just like, I hate you. And I was like, cool, I don't have disadvantage anymore.
Yep.
That's Obaxab, by the way.
Oh, geez.
What he currently looks like.
That's scary.
Yeah. That's what he currently looks like in his diminished state.
Yeah, we may have to post a picture of that.
Yeah. Absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
So my next pick is actually one from one of the Kobold Press books. I can't currently remember which one it's from. But when I was trying to get better at DMing, I basically just had this idea for a one-shot of, I'm not going to plan anything. at all. I'm going to flip through like all the different monster manuals and Volo's guide and stuff like that. And I'm going to find it was all I knew is that it was going to be 10th level.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to find a creature that is going to be a pretty hefty challenge for a group of 10th level players. And I'm going to research the creature, find out what I can about that creature specifically, and then just plan nothing. And so I start flipping through the books. I didn't find anything I wanted in the monster manual or Mordenkainen's or Volo's, and so I start going through the Kobold Press books. And I find this. We'll have to post a picture of it.
Yeah.
Just because it immediately caught my attention. It looks somewhat humanoid shaped.
Yeah. Okay.
It does. It's got this like black cloak covering it and this wide brimmed hat, but you can't see its face. And all you can see coming from underneath the cloak and through the armholes and everything is just a bunch of arms. Just arms and arms and
that's right.
No, you're thinking of
I was thinking of something else.
You're thinking of the
Bone Collector or something. No,
yeah, it was called the Bone Collective.
Yeah, Collective. That's right.
Yeah, but just arms with these like kind of pockmarked skin and these really long, creepy, like needle-like fingers. And I just go, "Ooh, what CR is that?" And I look down and I see it's a CR 13, and I go, "Well, that's a bit steep for a level 10. Let me read its stat block." Guys, this thing was such a fun one shot to run. It led me down this really interesting path because I read the little flavor text that it has on it and the little ecology section that it has in it's one of the Tome of Beasts, or might have been, I don't know, Tome of Beasts or Creature Codex, one of those. And it led me down this like Google rabbit hole of like researching what Greek humorism was and like
that's right,
old school like thoughts on like medicine and how different people got sick in different ways and what caused plagues and stuff like that. And it was all based on the four humors and all this stuff. And I'm like, by the end of it, I was like, I wasn't gonna plan anything, and I still haven't. But good grief, I've just spent 2 hours just reading a Google page. And so it has all these abilities that drain or add too much of different humors, because what the Greeks believed is, if you have too much of the black humor, you become unbalanced in this way because each, so it was like black, red, yellow, and green.
Yeah.
And each one represented a different emotion and a different part of the body and a different, like, stuff like that. So if you got too much, like red, I think, was like control over your rage and stuff like that. So if you had too much of that, you would become unstable and too angry and stuff like that. And so they believed that if they drained your blood, you would calm down and blah, 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 blah. Different stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so this thing had abilities that all went off of the imbalancing of the humors. And it was a plague creator, and it would come into the mortal realm. Yeah, I think it was from either Hades or Gehenna, because Hades. It was from Hades, because it would come into the mortal realm, cause all these plagues, drain all these different humors, and then it would go back to Hades and make tonics and potions and elixirs out of them that it would sell on the celestial black market, basically.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to put it in a town. And I'm going to see what the players do of this, because this town has a plague. And I literally started planning this as I was running it.
Mm-hmm.
We sat at the table and I start talking about it, and and like, oh yeah, you guys are walking into this town. You've been called here by the Church of Tomshek, which was one of my, homebrewed pantheon.
By the way, I believe this is the first session that I ever played with you guys.
One of, yeah.
Because it was a one shot that you were testing me out on.
So that was technically that was technically the second time I ran this.
Yeah.
Because I ran it for my old D&D group. and it just went really well. And so when they
you
were
did
like,
it for like a Halloween thing, right? Yeah.
So when you guys were like, hey, we want to do a one shot to see like if this guy Dan can get into the game and you know how he's gonna play with everybody, I was like, okay, cool. And we had kind of talked about like how the game worked and stuff like that, and you had been doing all your own research and stuff on how to play, and so I was like, I think he can handle a 10th level, which is not the greatest introduction to D&D. 10th level is a bit much, but you did great.
I was gonna say it was actually like awesome for me.
Yeah.
So
and just basically I turned this town into a plague town where something was causing this supernatural plague, and they had sent a cleric there, and he couldn't make any progress because every time he cured somebody, they were sick again the next day. And so there was this like suspicion of like, okay, are these people faking it? Is it for real? You know, is this a supernatural thing? Is somebody causing this? And they kept seeing these people that on the back of their neck had these 4 little puncture marks where it was sticking its needle fingers in and draining the humors from them. And of course, at the table, you know, of course they meet the cleric and they ask for his name, and I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm really bad at giving out names, and I thought there's one spell that clerics have. It's called command, where they basically yell out a 1-word command, and if you fail your saving throw, you have to obey it immediately, or as an action on your turn. And I just thought, oh, I know what his name is going to be. So I named him Simon. So that when he casts command, he could say
the vocal component.
Simon says stop. And it was just off of this joke that I gave him his name on the spot randomly. And the first time I ran it, I never even got to use that because I think the first time I ran it, Simon died.
Oh,
because the players thought it was Simon because they kept seeing this because he was wearing a plague doctor uniform, and they kept seeing this large thing floating around, you know, wearing a plague doctor's outfit.
I was going to say
with
a
wide brimmed hat, and they were like, I'm pretty sure it's Simon. And then they found him dying in the streets, and they're like, it's a trap. Let him die. And I was like, okay, it wasn't. And so he died. And they're just like, okay, well, it should all be better now, right? And then it just kept getting worse, and more sick people were coming to the little medic center that he had set up in the town square, and they're going, oh crap, we have a cleric, but no, they didn't have a cleric because it wasn't the regular characters. And then of course they end up hunting this thing down, and it keeps like ambushing them, because one of the things it can do with like draining some of your humors is add levels of exhaustion. And so it kept ambushing them, and it would stick them with its needle fingers, and then use that thing, and then just it has levitate always cast on itself.
Yeah.
So it just grabs, you know, buildings and flings itself around the city, because I think it gives it like a 40 or 45 foot levitate move speed. So it's so hard to pin down, because it's just constantly like, oh, okay, I got one of them. Now the rest of them are running towards me. Yeet. Bye.
Yeah, I remember when
I think you ended up with like 3 levels of exhaustion.
Yeah, something like that, because I got up on the roof.
Off on your own.
Yeah, I kept going up on the roof and trying to jump across the roof tops and stuff like that, trying to chase it down, and
it would like drop down into an alley, go around you, and then just pop up behind you and just.
Yep.
you're like crap, Al. Do I have to make another con save? I'm like, yeah, roll another con save, bud. That's level 3 of exhaustion.
Yeah.
So when the fight came, it was rough.
Yeah, because I think I was in the medic center when he finally came out and started the fight.
And that time it almost killed you all.
Yeah.
I think the first time I ran it, everyone was downed but the artificer. And he did something that brought everybody back up.
Yeah.
But it was like they were back up to like 1 HP. And then that was my buddy Jacob. And then the time y'all did it, everybody was almost down, and Matt was playing a cleric. And
that's right.
He was like, I want to use divine intervention. And I'm like, okay, roll that D100. And he got it.
Yep.
And he was like, I want to, because he didn't fully know.
It's like a sunlight.
Well, he didn't fully know what the higher level cleric stuff was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told him, okay, I'm going to give you an option. Do you want to deal damage to this thing, or do you want to aid your party?
Yeah.
And everybody was almost dead, and he was like, I want to aid my party. And so it casts like one of the like top level cleric healing spells.
Yeah.
And it basically gives like 500 hit points that you spread out evenly among everybody.
I think it's 700, actually.
It might have been. Because whatever it was, it got upcast to 9th level. Because divine intervention.
Yeah.
And so it just like it was like reveling in its almost victory and swooping down to make its final attacks on everybody.
And we do the Dracula
everybody
from the
went
grave.
all the way back up to full health, along with several of the people in the tent. Some of them were guards being cured and going back up to full health, and it was just like, oh crap. And then one of y'all grabbed it.
Yeah, I think Joel's character Jorgensen grabbed it.
I think Jorgensen grabbed one of the hands and just pulled it down so it couldn't get away, and y'all just beat the crap out of it and finally killed it. And it's such a fun creature because of the mobility that it has and the really unique abilities that it can drain different humors to cause different effects. And like I used exhaustion a bunch because that's just a terrifying thing to get hit with, is like, oh, I got hit one time, it dealt a good amount of damage, and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get hit the next time and you go, oh, please don't. Oh, yep, I have another level of exhaustion. Wonderful. Great. Thanks. That's perfect.
Yeah, and each level does something different that is
gets
like
progressively worse. And if it keeps happening, you just die.
Yeah.
And so if you had kept getting hit with this over and over and over again, it would have killed you just outright. No death saves. You just die.
Mm-hmm. Somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow I got out of it. But
yeah. And it's just such
a lot of fun.
It's such a fun creature. And I would recommend running it for like a 10th level party because it's technically a deadly encounter.
Mm-hmm.
But it added so many, like, such high stakes because it wasn't like well, if we can pin this thing down, we can just kill it to death real easily and just, kick its teeth in and be done with it. It was, okay, we have finally pinned it down. This thing is ripping us to pieces. What do we do?
Yeah.
And, you have enough stuff at 10th level to where you can offset that a little bit and use some of the different spells and class abilities to offset that and work around just the overwhelming strength of this thing.
Yeah.
But you have to think as a higher level character, not as okay, I'm like 5th level, I only have this many spell slots, I kind of want to be a little bit. No. You have to go all out when it's that much stronger than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's even the tough thing now for me, where like when we are doing those 20th level or 10th level characters, it's like, do I save my spells? Do I, gotta for our 20th level, mindset. With our 20th level one shot that we're running, it's like, I don't know what the big bad is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, do I save my spells and try to make sure I have something for the big bad? Or is this the big bad, and do I just go all out? Yeah. And it's like, but obviously with that one, it was
20th level. You can get like a round or two into combat and then realize like, no, this is not designed for 20th level characters because these are like they're dying too. They hit hard, but we're killing them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe save that.
So yeah,
which was kind of what I did with the last one shot Heather ran, where I was playing as Dax, and I cast one of the spells that I had been excited to use with him. I cast Spiritual Weapon.
Yeah.
But I had a combo you can use. He's a Divine Soul sorcerer. Mm-hmm. So he gets cleric spells where you can cast Spiritual Weapon, which gives you a bonus action attack, but it's not a concentration spell.
Yeah.
So you can then cast Spirit Guardians, and it's basically a giant middle finger to anything who's not your friend that gets close to you.
Yeah.
So with him being punchy, I can throw up Spirit Guardians and Spirit Weapons, and then still run in and be casting those melee cantrips or those melee spells. But I was like, I don't know how many more fights we're gonna have. Heather has our own character sheets upstairs, guarding the upper floors. So like, what if we run into Lalander? What if we run into Worm? Like what if Azrael decides to come downstairs and wild shape and start beating the crap out of everybody? Like, what do we do if that happens?
Yeah.
I'm gonna save something. And then we ended up beating that guy, and I was like, wait, I'm a changeling. That's the warden. I can just steal his clothes and turn into him.
Which I can say for sure that the combat would have been really, really cool, but devastating.
Yeah.
For one side or the other.
That combination of spiritual weapon and spirit guardians is so busted, especially like and it's so
and
much,
it's even 5th level, right? So it's not even like it's high level things.
But I couldn't get myself out of that mindset of, I mean, my first characters that I ever played as were warlocks. You save your spell slots.
Oh yeah.
You only get 2 of them. You're gonna cast a lot of cantrips and maybe 1 concentration spell over the course of a combat.
Yep.
And
Hex.
Hex or shadow puppets, something like that, where you can just like, I'm gonna pick one dude and just break him.
Yeah.
And then everybody else I can kind of deal with, with my other assets and stuff. But I want that other spell slot in case the combat escalates.
Yeah. All right. So final one that we got to get into.
We both agreed on.
Yeah. So this one is called the Dungeon Master. It's practically based off of Matt Mercer. The picture basically is Matt Mercer.
It is Matt Mercer. He's just like animated into this like cool wizardy looking thing.
Yeah.
I like to call this stat block. I'm fed up with you guys.
Well, I think the coolest part about it is one of his legendary actions is called Monster Manual.
Mm-hmm.
So he can literally just summon any creature from the Monster Manual and set it against you.
Which I would even expand that to, okay, not just the Monster Manual.
Oh, anything.
Any of the monster compendiums or any random thing you find on Pinterest. It's like, hey, if it has a stat block, that's now available to the Dungeon Master to just summon into the fight.
Yep.
But this of course is assuming your game gets super meta.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you know what? We're gonna kill God. Okay, which one? No. We're gonna kill you. Buckle up.
Yeah. So one of the things it says here in this stat block is it's called Spellbook. The Dungeon Master is a 20th level spellcaster. Its spellcasting ability is intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. It can prepare spells from any class and can prepare new spells at each dawn. Oi. So yeah, it can have, oh man,
anything.
Yeah, just anything. We'll have to post this on Instagram or something, but
that way it'll also give credit to whoever made it.
Oh
I'm sure there's a created by signature on there.
Yeah, made by 5th edition homebrewing.tumblr.com.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, this thing, I can just imagine a dungeon master playing this thing as, this is just me.
Mm-hmm.
I am going after you guys.
and so you don't even have to like do a crazy NPC voice.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any kind of wacky character. Just put you with ultimate power into the campaign and say, okay, guys, you wanted me. Here I am.
Come get me.
like you think you're going to dish out your wrath. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
So, yeah, I feel like that one is kind of the ultimate bad guy.
Yeah.
Although, in some ways, this could be
The ultimate good guy.
the ultimate good guy as well. The DMPC.
The Deus Ex Machina, you know?
So it just
God
depends.
has shown up.
Yeah, it just depends on how you want to play it.
Yeah.
But, like, this would be a horrifying bad guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, the Dungeon Master has decided to be against you this time. And not just in the meta sense of it. In the actual physical, he is now in the world.
Yep.
And has decided, because you guys are the center of the universe, to make you the center of the universe.
And the lore behind him is whatever your backstory is.
Yeah.
I grew up in the church.
Random chunky nerd loves D&D. It's like, that's our villain's backstory? Yeah, dude, it's just me.
Roll a history check.
You have rolled too many nat 20s over the course of this game. That's his villainous backstory. You killed my guy by throwing him off an airship in one hit. This was supposed to be a several-tiered boss battle, and you threw him off the airship. I'm not apologizing.
I wouldn't expect you to.
That's gonna be a shirt.
It's got to be a shirt.
As on the front, I'm not apologizing, and then on the back, I wouldn't expect you to.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It could even have like our little characters from the logo.
Yeah.
Mine on the front just smiling. I'm not apologizing. Then yours with the like head in the hand. Like, I wouldn't expect you to.
I like it. That would be so cool. Buy it, people. Buy it.
all three of you.
Yeah. We have less now. You said 4 earlier.
Yeah.
We lost somebody somewhere along the way.
Somebody decided, like, I'm done with this episode.
No, come back. Come back. Reach for me.
Doing the thing from that old Merlin movie where he's got the tree branch.
Yeah.
Trying to save Nimue. Grow. Grow.
I am so happy you've seen that.
Dude, nobody's seen that movie. Or it was a TV movie.
It was a miniseries, yeah.
Nobody ever has seen that. And it's so good.
I love that movie. So anyway, D&D.
That'd be a fun campaign.
Yeah. In the world of Camelot and Arthur and Merlin. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's been done.
Probably.
Can I play as Frick?
No, I want to play as Frick.
I'm definitely not playing as Queen Mab. My voice would be thrashed at the end of that. Every session.
I want to play Nimue.
No, let's be honest. Mordred.
Yeah.
Exactly. Who the devil?
Alrighty. Well, that'll do it for this episode, I think. Thanks for listening to Critical Friendship. If you have any questions concerning anything we discussed today, you can email us at criticalfriendshippodcast@gmail.com or comment on our Instagram at Critical Friendship Podcast, and we'll try to answer as many as we can on our next episode.
Join us next time where we will be having Atreya on to give us a deep dive into why eating raw potatoes is better than cooking them.
But as for now... Ah, dang it, I rolled a nat 1 on giving the outro.